The 3-minute thing, I think, is where people really have an issue, because you're right, there are lots of games where it's like, if you're online and connected, like, we know from a lot of RPGs or racing games, like it'll just populate the world and it's sort of, that's the expected state, but if you're not connected, the game still goes on. So yeah, that 3-minute rule of like your game, your system's gonna shut off if your internet goes down, and
I just think that's crazy. I just don't think
where
any
are you
company.
getting that from, though? That's the thing.
there was some rumor document that said that.
Bad shit about this thing is that it's like,
I agree.
give the, the Microsoft guys, especially the Xbox group. I'm not saying, oh, they're awesome, but I like them a lot. They're really smart guys. You know them. These guys are gamers. Either you guys ran an article, I didn't click on it, but I saw Crescente had put up a headline on Twitter about, hey, is this more of a sign that these guys are heading towards a cable box, right? As the next thing. I don't know, but it's like, okay, I'm at least willing to give these guys the benefit of the doubt that maybe if they're going to put something out there that clearly has consumers so upset that there's a reason behind it, or better yet, they haven't announced yet. So calm the down and wait, and then we can all get together and together. But you don't know. Oh, I said, see, I'm trying not to do that anymore. But complain together, because then there's a reason to. Because I would be annoyed if it was always.
And part of it is
these
gamers. I think people are complaining about they want to buy a new Xbox, right? And you're going to give Microsoft the benefit of the doubt until they explain and say, here's exactly how this works, what happens after 3 minutes, and things like that.
Right.
Then you don't know, because now people are saying, oh, I'm not going to buy an Xbox. I'm sure if Microsoft explains it and it's something that seems reasonable, where it's like, as you said, it's like it sort of thinks you're going to be online, but doesn't require you to be online. I'm sure people will be like, oh yeah, that's great.
Or even if it's awful for all the reasons we think it's going to be, but it's good for their business, and they say, you know what, the consumer's going to hate this, but you know what, we're going to come to them with these 8 amazing brand new IPs, first party. It's like, well, the only way, it's like there's a lot of things we don't like that we get used to. I don't like that I have to pay for my food, but you know what, that's the business, and it's good enough to go to McDonald's sometimes instead of eating at home,
But why do you think, like, always on, why, SimCity, Diablo, Xbox, whatever, it's like, why do you think these publishers and developers, why are they wanting this always on experience? Like, why, like, a lot of talk about SimCity, for example, where, there's debate, like, could it be made, single player, not require this, and EA said, no, it couldn't, then people found in the code there would have been a way to do it. I mean, is it a DRM issue? I mean, do you feel that's what publishers?
I've just mostly been working in consoles and stuff. I mean, it's never been like, people talking about the PC DRM issues, but I honestly don't know. I don't know enough about it. You guys probably know what the reason is.
I think some of it may be related to DRM or curbing sales of used games, and some of it may just be, Microsoft can go to McDonald's and say, hey, we've got all these people on our console. They're always going to be connected. You can sell them ads. Right. Or, we're going to get all this user data from people because they're connected, and that's required.
It's very valuable.
Yeah.
That scraping of just data, content of people's likes and dislikes, and that is the new economy in a large, it's the Facebookification of the world.
Yep.
And then, the benefit to, I think, to Microsoft and maybe developers and maybe consumers is that there is this, expectation or requirement or whatever it's going to be that it's always online, and you can always count on that with this system. Yep. They released 360 in 2 form factors, one with a hard drive, one without a hard drive, and that ultimately affected the design of certain games. So if you have this thing in your system, it's like that's always going to be there, and the Connect, next generation Connect, is always going to be connected.
Right.
You can rely on these things instead of having to develop 2 versions.
No, that's what I always tried to reference to people is, I remember, I'm old enough to remember when we all got up in arms when the first Xbox was only going to be
broadband, right?
Broadband, and we were all like, oh, but what about all the dial-up people across the country? And it was to the benefit of that system, and it was to the benefit of that online experience. And so I'm hoping that that's the kind of thing that we'll see with this system that expects to be on, so the developers know to program for that environment.
Right, and the idea is then, when even you're out on the road on your phone, maybe you can say, like, download this on Xbox, and when you get home, it's already there, and it's prepped for you, and things like that. So yeah, I think it really just comes down to that fail state, and no one wants to, feel like, I wanted to play an Xbox game now, and I can't because my internet went down.
I mean, look, if I walked into a store and it's like, oh, well, this new system, whatever it is online only, I would think twice, and there would have to be a good benefit for me to sort of take that plunge, but. But I would assume.
It's hard to think what that benefit would be, right?
No, not really. I mean, because you're right about the new economy. I think you're right. That may be the reason. I don't know if this machine is going to always be online. But do I think, look, it's first party's job to say, hey, look, we have to sort of counter the fact that there are some things, in most cases, it's just a price point. Yeah. We have to give you a reason to want this. And so if they come out with amazing games at E3, it's like, well, yeah, but I get to play that on that. Yeah, fine. I'll plug it in my, maybe it's worth it. I think that's kind of the job of it.
I also think it would be incredible if it was like, you have to have a original copy of this game to play it on our system. You can't have a used copy. But in exchange for that, all games are $15 cheaper.
Right.
Not gonna happen, but I
Yeah.
think from a consumer's perspective, that would be something we'd be like, okay, I will make that
up.
exchange with you.
Yep.
I will be willing to say, yeah, I'll buy only a new original copy of this game for a
Well, and
lower
also, I think it's a great point because, yeah, if games got cheaper, then that's a benefit. And the other thing to think about is, is it going to be this sort of edict from on high that all games have to operate this way, or is it going to be, the Xbox? Maybe there's a trigger where publishers can decide, like, right, what happens in that. Is it the 3-minute rule? Is that Microsoft mandating that, or do publishers get to decide that?
There is no 3-minute. This is what you guys do. You push this out into the world. Hey, which camera is on? There is no one said about a 3-minute rule yet. There's no official word.
No,
there
that's
may
true.
be.
Exactly, yeah.
But now, let's build those comments. I get a penny per comment.
Exactly.
So,
But that,
David Jaffe confirms 3-minute rule.
exactly. You all. I'm going home.
It's a great point, though, because, yeah, as you said, there's a lot of speculation. We won't know until, May 21st what Xbox is planning. Or, for all you know, they haven't even made the decision yet, or they're thinking about it. And a lot of this, what I think is fascinating is that it's all software, right? It's just it's a toggle. And it's like, to think that someone's going to decide, here's the rule, and it's always going to be like this. It can change based on feedback or over time. It's like, you never know. So, these are not hardware decisions that
I
they're
think
making.
that's actually why it's good that we're all complaining about
Right.
all this stuff. And this sounds real. It sounds like it
You really
really
shouldn't
suck.
say. You shouldn't say.
Well, I can say it.
That's true.
Maybe
You
we'll get
can't.
maybe
I
we'll
can't
get
say
yeah,
that.
maybe we'll get it up to 4 minutes, right, Jeff?
Yeah, hey,
But
whatever.
people reacting, very negatively towards this, this may change the
Right.
way that Microsoft implements some of this stuff if they are doing this.
How do you think that's all this stuff? I mean, the always on stuff, and there's been a couple other controversies online in my life lately, and it's gotten me to kind of get curious about how to take the data, right? So it's like there is such a danger of sort of, how do you determine if it's vocal minority? And how do you determine if it's like, no, this is a real sense of the zeitgeist of sort of this, of gamers, this is what they like. I mean, when you
Well,
guys
it's a huge
hear,
issue.
is this always on thing? Was it just like a handful, not a handful, but a small group of very vocal gamers complaining?
all
Or do
connected
you
to the
think it
internet.
really
I
is?
mean,
Right, exactly.
I hate to bring up real life in a video game show, but it's the same thing as like, a gun control bill not passing when it has 90% of support. It's because this like 8% super vocal, super
Right.
energetic minority can sort of sway the opinion. And I think that is often the case with this group of people who are always on the internet and make their voices really heard in a very strong way. But I think a lot of people wouldn't even know the difference because we're used to plugging our cable boxes into the wall all the time. We're used to having cell phones that are always on. I wonder, as you said, what
That's
the
a great
real
point.
reality would be.
Well, I think you can look at the sales of Diablo 3, which is like 12 million copies, and
Yeah.
SimCity, which is I think surpassed 1 million within the first week. I don't know the numbers, but
There's just
but
so
I mean it's
successful.
it's you look at the number of people that are at least actively being vocal about this, and I'm sure there are a lot of the consumers who bought Diablo 3 and SimCity who had a really experience, but didn't go to GAF.
And it doesn't
or-
mean it's not a valid point. I think the best companies are the ones that, hone in on something that most people don't think are a problem and make it better. So I don't think it means you just throw the issue out because it's not important because it's a vocal minority. I just think it does make me question how big of an issue this actually could be. If I was Microsoft and if I had announced a console and if I'd announced an always-on console,
Right.
I'd be sitting in that boardroom going, okay, how serious do we take the fact that, at least, on NeoGAF, the earth kind of shook. What does that mean? I don't
And
know,
also, as you said, with no real information on what the story is, so they may show up on May 21st and say, like, always on? No, that's not what the console is at all.
It's the virtual boy. That's what we're making. What the are you people talking about?
And it's true. I mean,
We'll
what
find
you
out.
said about Diablo 3 is a great point because, if you just read NeoGAF, you would think Diablo 3 was a huge failure.
Well, it's the same with like Grand Theft Auto 4. There are a lot of people who I think really enjoy tearing down that game, and I think with a few valid reasons, but it's still a great game. Still sold very well for Rockstar, but there are a lot of people like go to NeoGAF. I love you guys, but
We're playing
you gotta,
them a lot today.
Yeah, you got to lay off Grand Theft Auto 4.
No, but that is a segment, but it's
Yeah.
it's just the perception of that form or those individuals, does that become the reality because that's all the data points people have, right? Because other people are not talking and they may be enjoying those games. All right, well, when we come back in the bonus round next week, we're going to talk about some of the big games so far in 2013 with our publisher scorecard.
See all of our shows and game reviews now on the brand new GT app on Xbox Live and the GT Originals iOS app too.